We come together this morning to reflect on the miracle of rebirth. For with the winter solstice, the sun has turned, about to begin again the process of the rebirth of nature, so we may once more marvel at the regeneration of plant and animal and human. We come together this morning to celebrate the living of our lives, for in this life is our opportunity to laugh and to cry, to sense and appreciate, to feel, think, to accept and create, to do and give, to live and love. We come together this morning to join in the fellowship of giving, for this is a time for us to gather, to live out our dedication to the web of existence, and to give of our friendship and of our love, and thus ourselves. Come, let us worship together this morning. And now I invite you to rise in body and spirit as we sing number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. So you'll see things are a little bit different in this service today. There's no sermon, but instead we're sharing stories. And I have the distinct pleasure of sharing with you one of my favorite Christmas stories this morning. This is one that I read to my children when they were growing up. And those of us who are a little older than children will recognize in this story that it's nothing less than sort of describing the meaning of life, a little thing. It's called The Christmas Piñata, and it's written by Jack Kent. There were 2 lumps of clay to begin with, but in the talented hands of Juan Gomez the potter, these lumps of clay began to take shape, and soon they were formed into 2 handsome pots, just alike. Pedro Gomez helped his father put the pots into the oven to be baked hard and strong. But when they took them out again, they saw that one of the pots had cracked. "Well," said Senor Gomez, "that pot won't be going to market." And he shoved it in the corner out of the way. The poor little pot. If it had a heart, the heart would be broken too. It watched with envy as Senor Gomez painted the rest of the pottery with happy shapes and bright colors. "How pretty the other pot is," said the broken pot, and it sighed a great sigh. "No one will decorate a broken pot like me." Now Saturday was market day, and Pedro helped his father carry the pottery into town, and the broken pot sitting in the corner sadly watched them go. But it turns out the good pot didn't make it to market either. Senora Gomez said it was just what she needed for carrying water from the well. "How useful the other pot is," thought the broken pot, and it sighed another great sigh. "No one has any use for a broken pot like me." And days passed, and the broken pot was still sitting in the corner. Then one day, Maria Gomez noticed the pot and said, "Look, Mama, it's just what we need for our Christmas piñata." "I'm needed," the broken pot said happily to itself. "What sort of piñata shall it be?" Senora Gomez said. "Last year we made a star, and the year before that we made a burro." "Let's make a bull this time," said Maria. So using the pot for the body, Maria and her mother added legs and a neck tied with string. "It's dark in here," said the pot, as it was covered with the skin of torn-up newspapers soaked in flour paste. And slowly the form of a bull began to take shape, and then it was covered with fringes of beautiful colored tissue paper. "It's beautiful," said Maria. "I'm beautiful," the proud pot happily said to itself. Maria cut a hole in the bull's back just over the mouth of the pot, and then she and her mother filled the pot with candies and fruits and nuts and other good things. And finally, the piñata was ready. Christmas drew near, and in front of the Gomez house, the decorations were hung, and proudly among them, its outside covered with tissue paper and its inside filled with treats, hung the broken pot. One night, candles could be seen flickering in the dark. It was the traditional Christmas celebration of Las Posadas. In Las Posadas, the children were acting out the search for shelter on that night in Bethlehem so long ago. From house to house they went, and at each house they were told that there was no room for them, until at last, at the Gomez house, they were told they could stay. "I'm so glad," the pot said to itself. And then there was great joy, and everyone joined in singing the happy songs of Christmas. And after a while, Senora Gomez said, "And now it's time for the piñata." "That's me," thought the pot, and it felt terribly important. Maria was blindfolded, and she was handed a stick, and she began swinging about, and several times she came very close to the piñata. "If she's not careful, she's going to hit me," thought the pot. That was the whole idea, of course, and the children took turns trying. Finally, one of them hit the piñata and shattered the pot, and good things rained down on the children, and the children squealed in delight. The piñata was in shambles, and the pot was smashed to bits. "Well," thought the bits as they were tossed into the trash heap, "it was grand while it lasted." After a while, the bits of the broken pot were joined by bits of the good pot. "Did you get broken too?" the bits of the broken pot asked in surprise. "Nothing lasts forever," the bits of the good pot replied. "We begin the same and we end the same," said one pile of bits. "Everybody does," said the other, "and in between we were each useful in our own way," said one. "Everybody is," said the other, and the whole trash heap sighed happily.
For the Man Who Hated Christmas by Nancy W. Gavin. This short, inspirational Christmas story reveals the true spirit and meaning of Christmas. It was originally published in the December 14, 1982 issue of Women's Day magazine. This moving story inspired the creation of the White Envelope Project, a caring, nonprofit organization dedicated to developing the next generation of givers, civic leaders, and philanthropists. It's just a small white envelope stuck among the branches of our Christmas tree. No name, no identification, no inscription. It has peeked through the branches of our tree for the past 10 years. It all began because my husband Mike hated Christmas. Oh, not the true meaning of Christmas, but the commercial aspects of it. Overspending and the frantic running around at the last minute to get a tie for Uncle Harry and the dusting powder for Grandma. The gifts given in desperation because you couldn't think of anything else. Knowing he felt this way, I decided one year to bypass the usual shirts, sweaters, ties, and so forth. I reached for something special just for Mike. The inspiration came in an unusual way. Our son Kevin, who was 12 that year, was on the wrestling team at the school he attended. Shortly before Christmas, there was a non-league match against a team sponsored by an inner-city church. These youngsters, dressed in sneakers so ragged that shoestrings seemed to be the only thing holding them together, presented a sharp contrast to our boys in their spiffy blue and gold uniforms and sparkling new wrestling shoes. As the match began, I was alarmed to see that the other team was wrestling without headgear, a kind of light helmet designed to protect a wrestler's ears. It was a luxury the ragtag team obviously could not afford. Well, we ended up walloping them. We took every weight class. Mike, seated beside me, shook his head sadly. "I wish just one of them could have won," he said. "They have a lot of potential, but losing like this could take the heart right out of them." Mike loved kids, all kids. He so enjoyed coaching Little League football, baseball, and lacrosse. That's when the idea for his present came. That afternoon, I went to a local sporting goods store and bought an assortment of wrestling headgear and shoes and sent them anonymously to the inner city church. On Christmas Eve, I placed a small white envelope on the tree, the note inside telling Mike what I had done and that this was his gift from me. Mike's smile was the brightest thing about Christmas that year. And that same bright smile lit up succeeding years. For each Christmas, I followed the tradition. One year, sending a group of mentally handicapped youngsters to a hockey game. Another year, a check to a pair of elderly brothers whose home had burned to the ground the week before Christmas. And on and on. The white envelope became the highlight of our Christmas. It was always the last thing opened on Christmas morning, and our children, ignoring their new toys, would stand with wide-eyed anticipation as their dad lifted the envelope from the tree to reveal its contents. As the children grew, the toys gave way to more practical presents, but the small white envelope never lost its allure. The story doesn't end there. You see, Mike died last year. When Christmas rolled around, I was still so wrapped in grief that I barely got the tree up. But Christmas Eve found me placing an envelope on the tree. And the next morning, I found it was magically joined by 3 more. Unbeknownst to the others, each of our 3 children had for the first time placed a white envelope on the tree for their dad. The tradition has grown, and someday will expand even further with our grandchildren standing to take down that special envelope. Mike's spirit, like the Christmas spirit, will always be with us.
The author of the story I'm reading today on Santa's team is unknown, but I think all of us have felt its truth at different points in our life. My grandma taught me everything about Christmas. I was just a kid. I remember tearing across town on my bike to visit her on the day my big sister dropped the bomb. "There is no Santa Claus," my sister jeered. "Even dummies know that." My grandma was not the gushy kind, never had been. I fled to her that day because I knew she would be straight with me. I knew Grandma always told the truth. And I knew that the truth always went down a whole lot easier when swallowed with one of her world-famous cinnamon buns. Grandma was home, and the buns were still warm. Between bites, I told her everything, and she was ready for me. "No Santa Claus," she snorted. "Ridiculous! Don't believe it. That rumor has been going around for years, and it makes me mad, plain mad. Now, put on your coat and let's go." "Go? Go where, Grandma?" I hadn't even finished my second cinnamon bun. Where turned out to be Kirby's General Store, the one store in town that had a little bit of just about everything. As we walked through its doors, Grandma handed me $10. That was a bundle in those days. "Take this money," she said, "and buy something for someone who needs it. I'll wait for you in the car." Then she turned and walked out of Kirby's. Now, I was only 8 years old. I'd often gone shopping with my mother, but never had shopped for anything all by myself. The store seemed big and crowded and full of people scrambling to finish their Christmas shopping. For a few moments, I just stood there, confused, clutching the $10 bill, wondering what to buy and who on earth to buy it for. I thought of everybody I knew, my family, my friends, my neighbors, the kids at school, the people who went to my church. I was just about thought out when I suddenly thought of Bobby Decker. He was a kid with bad breath and messy hair, and he sat right behind me in Mrs. Pollock's second grade class. Bobby Decker didn't have a coat. I knew that because he never went out for recess during the winter. His mother always wrote a note telling the teacher that he had a cough. But all the kids knew that Bobby Decker didn't have a cough, and he didn't have a coat. I fingered the $10 bill with growing excitement. I would buy Bobby Decker a coat. I settled on a red corduroy one that had a hood to it. It looked real warm, and he would like that. I didn't see a price tag, but $10 ought to buy anything. I put the coat and my $10 bill on the counter and pushed them toward the lady behind it. She looked at the coat, the money, and me. "Is this a Christmas present for someone?" "Yes," I replied shyly. It's for Bobby. He's someone in my class and he doesn't have a coat." The nice lady smiled at me. I didn't get any change, but she put the coat in a bag and wished me a Merry Christmas. That evening, Grandma helped me wrap the coat in Christmas paper and ribbons and write "To Bobby" from Santa Claus on it. Grandma said that Santa always insisted on secrecy. Then she drove me over to Bobby Decker's house, explaining as we went that I was now and forever officially one of Santa's helpers. Grandma parked down the street from Bobby's house, and she and I crept noiselessly and hid in the bushes by his front walk. Suddenly, Grandma gave me a nudge. "All right, Santa Claus," she whispered, "get going." I took a deep breath, dashed for his front door, threw the present down on his step, pounded his doorbell twice, and flew back to the safety of the bushes and Grandma. Together we waited breathlessly in the darkness for the front door to open. Finally it did, and there stood Bobby. He looked around, picked up his present, took it inside, and closed the door. 55 years haven't diminished the thrill of those moments or dimmed the time I spent shivering beside my grandma in Bobby Decker's bushes. That night, I realized that those awful rumors about Santa Claus were just what my grandma had said. Ridiculous. Santa was alive and well, and we are on his team. Please join me in silent reflection on ways to better serve with Santa the cause of generosity.
Stars still shine in the skies above. The people of the world still yearn for peace. People come together in joy. Children look to their parents for security and comfort. All of us need love and tenderness from one another. The days of Hanukkah, solstice, Kwanzaa, Christmas are here. May you give and receive the most precious gifts, humanness at its very best. May the blessings of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. And may love's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. Shalom, salam, peace. And now, as we extinguish the light of our communal chalice, this is when our service truly begins.